I wanna also a little bit.
What's up, guys? This is Twinless Twin, and I've got a really cool match to show you today. Actually, we're just gonna go straight into game number 3. For some context, we're playing against Blue Black Shadow, and we're playing Murktide, and we are going to go ahead and watch this game. So let's see how it goes. So we are on the play for game 3, and this first 7 card hand, I don't think you can keep. We don't have a red mana, we don't have any cantrips. It's just way too risky. So we mulligan. Can't keep this. It's again, no lands, not playable. And then we mulligan. And oh boy. Not good. Not good. Another another no lander. So we're going down to either 4 or keeping this. And I just don't think you can keep this. You know, it's way too risky. So we go to 4. And this is our 4 card hand. So I'm joined here by a patron, Charles. And Charles, I'm curious if you were on a Multa 4 against Blue Black Shadow, what would you keep out of these cards?
Okay. Well, I think to win the game was to play Murktide as soon as possible. So I will probably keep Delta, Murktide, Preordain, and Consider.
Yeah, I
Uh,
really like your thinking. So we'll see what I did. So I had the right idea, but in the moment, I think that Tilt might have taken control, and I was like, I can't believe I mulled a 4, and I kept the Spire Bluff Canal, which is just really not a smart move, because again, the goal is to play Murktide as fast as possible, and so the fetch land adding an extra card to the graveyard would have been really helpful. But I think that the key thing there also is identifying like what's your plan on a Molda 4? And you said playing a fast Murktide, which I completely agree with. I think in this case, especially in this matchup, they actually have pretty limited answers to a resolved Murktide. Now the challenge will be playing through their counter spells and hoping to dodge Thoughtseize, which is, an uphill battle, but we're on a Molda 4, so no matter what, we're facing an uphill battle. So we need to have a plan and just hope to execute that plan. And so we're going to go ahead and keep those cards. Again, it would have been nice to have fetched there and had an extra card in the yard. We'll see if that comes back to bite us. So we draw Mystical Dispute, which is great because of Counterspell. And then we start to pass the turn, but should we cast Consider here? Well, if you think about it, they didn't have Thoughtseize, obviously, or they would have played it. They could have Counterspell. What are we really waiting on this Consider for? There's a chance we could consider into Preordain or a Mishra's Bauble, and then that could potentially set up Murktide plus Mystical Dispute next turn so that we can beat Counterspell, because Counterspell is definitely a card they could have if they didn't have Thoughtseize, right? Some type of interaction. They could have a push and a Counterspell maybe. That would make some sense. So we decide to cast Consider now, and we bin a Murktide, and then boom, we hit Preordain, but the Preordain shows 2 lands, and because of the fetch land earlier, because we didn't keep a fetch land earlier, we get punished, right? We only have 4 cards in the yard, so if we top a Spire Bluff Canal, then we actually can't cast Murktide plus Mystical Dispute through Counterspell next turn, right? So now we had to bottom the lands because we identified that we need to have Counterspell up with our Murktide to try to play through that. So we bottom both and try to hit a fetch land. Um, However, we don't hit a fetch land. We hit Preordain. So we Preordain, and then we Preordain again. And this time I top Minor Misstep. My thought is they could cantrip or just naturally draw Thoughtseize, and having a counter for that would be nice. And Minor Misstep, I mean, like the better card would maybe be Counterspell, so that we could like Murktide plus Dispute and then have Counterspell up the next turn. But at this point, we're drawing pretty thin, and Minor Misstep I think is better than a random card, just for its ability to cut off Thoughtseize as one of their potential relevant draws, just depending on their hand. So they just pass back. So at this point, we're pretty confident they have Counterspell, right? So we play a fetch land. We draw fetch. So another card they have in their deck, right? Stubborn Denial. So the fetch was a good draw. However, we make a mistake of immediately fetching. And immediately fetching here is bad because what is one of their ways to answer Murktide? Well, they have Dismember, but our Murktide is going to be an 8/8, right? Well, another card they have that can remove Murktide from the battlefield is Drown in the Lock. So our goal now is to play this Murktide, Mystical Dispute their counterspell, and then keep as few cards in our graveyard as possible. So we should not have cracked that fourth fetch land. So definitely some inaccurate play here by me, but just keeping all those things in mind and reviewing this match to kind of share that this very interesting and cool game. So we go ahead and we get to dispute the counterspell. And we attack with our Murktide. Okay, guys, I'm gonna take a picture of what just happened, and I'm gonna post it along with this video, cause the cat just jumped into a really small drawer on my desk. That is funny. Okay. So, anyways, we go ahead, we keep this spell snare because it answers Drown in the Lock, and then boom, we get to spell snare Drown in the Lock. It's at this point that our opponent tells us, very nice, top deck narrow card comes in clutch. So they're not happy that we had the spell snare there. But we did identify spell snare was the answer to their only removal spell that really works on an 8/8 Murktide, which is Drown in the Lock. So again, we didn't play this game perfectly, but we did identify the best way to progress our plan, and for the most part, made the plays that gave us the best chance of winning on a mulligan to 4. Especially in an attrition matchup, this just isn't something you see very often, so I thought it might be cool for everyone to watch. Hope you guys enjoyed, and have a great rest of your day. And thanks to all the Patreons hanging out and watching, and Charles for the analysis early. Nice job. See you guys.